John Pollock here with John Ramdeen and Robin Black, and we are taking a look at the UFC Fight Night event from Sunday night in Phoenix, Arizona. Going outside of the main event, Joe Lauzon won an extremely controversial split decision over Marcin held. He had two 29-28 scores in his favor, and then another judge, 30-27 for held. I had a 29-28 for held. I think most did, giving Joe Lauzon
round
the
two
first.
and three with
Lauzon
the elbows.
Lauzon had your score too.
Yeah, Joe Lauzon included, who, I mean, I give all the credit in the world to how classy this guy was immediately after saying, I completely disagree with this decision. It was not my night, and this guy got robbed. And I think most agree with that. It was a pretty wacky decision.
I wonder if he's going to give him his bonus money.
No,
to Marcin.
that's mine. That is mine.
He gave him verbal credit.
Yeah.
Hey, it's not his fault.
No,
Listen,
no,
he's not writing the scores down, because if he had, he would have had it against himself.
Yeah,
he can only go by those three people.
It's true.
Yeah. But however, I mean, when you look at, I had round one for Lauzon because of how damaging those elbows. I think a lot of people would look at that as like, okay, we've seen fighters get stopped in this position before. But
then you got to give Johnny Hendricks round one against George St. Pierre.
I did.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
I guess I'll have to go
You're
back.
going to have to go back and see that.
Do that. But again, you have to remember, there's also other details that unfolded in that first round. So, but I think because round 2 and 3, that Lauzon still had moments, and that Marcin held wasn't attacking. It's one of the problems with his game is he's so grappling and jiu-jitsu oriented, opposed to getting on the ground and hitting his opponents. I think a lot of times the judges will go for your opponent, especially if you're able to defend, and Lauzon was going for submissions as well. So, I mean, these are the things that happen in MMA.
Yeah, a number of things. One is Joe Lauzon, hey, when I grow up, I want to be that classy. You know what I mean? That's cool. The truth is so weird these days and so rare that it jumps out, you know, and good for him. And, you know, we can all learn from that. The truth is actually this powerful, influential thing because you hear it so infrequently these days. But great fight for Held and a great performance, and they'll give him a nice bonus, I'm sure. And you know, Joe was cool about it, so everybody wins. And it was a really cool fight. You saw Joe Lauzon on the ground is super legit. Joe Lauzon knows how to play jiu-jitsu, particularly as a athletic risk taker.
Yeah.
And Held just squashed him right out, was positionally dominant. That was super legit. And a great fight all around. But you know, this is something we talked about this weekend when we commentated TKO in Montreal. You want to win the fight. I came here to beat that man. But the job that you were paid for isn't beating the crap out of that guy. The job that you are rewarded financially for is convincing two of these 3 tomato cans out here that you did it for 2 rounds. That becomes the paying part of the job. The man part of the job or the woman part of the job, the competitor part of the job is beat that person up. But the paid gig is make those 2 guys think you won. So Joe did that gig.
Well, Alexei Oleinik didn't require any of the judges' assistance.
Shocking. What a weird weekend.
Victor Pesta, here he mounts Oleinik, who then proceeds, and you think he's just going over his head and into this Ezekiel choke, and all of a sudden, Victor Pesta taps out. I mean, this would be one thing, John, if we were watching this in a tournament where it's a gi, or if it's lower level mixed martial arts. I mean, this was pretty incredible to watch at this high level in the UFC for a submission like this.
I don't think everybody's able to pull this thing off. One of the things that Oleinik's known for is he's called the bull constrictor for a reason. Once he locks that in, you can only imagine how good his squeeze is. It's one of the things Eddie Bravo talks about in the 10th Planet system. Just keep working on your squeeze. Constantly master that squeeze, and eventually when you get yourself into a position where you're going to attack with a submission, it's going to be so perfect. And Oleinik was trying to set it up before. He set it up, it didn't happen, he readjusted and got it as soon as there was the mount.
What I thought was super cool was he started putting it on, and it's a fist, I believe. You can't see it there, but for the most part, it's a larynx crush as well as cutting the blood off on the side. But it appeared like he was setting up from the bottom of cross side. And once it's in there, Pesta's thinking it's like, geez, well, you know, the mount is inviting. You're inviting the mount. But once it's in there, it's going to be even worse. I disagree with you when you say not everybody can do this.
Yeah.
I believe everybody can do this.
Right.
It just
I'm
takes
saying,
a lot
like,
of work.
that's what I mean. That's
so
what I mean.
What if everybody does do this now? Or what if, say, 30% of guys? Because nobody thought you could ever do the quad in figure skating. Once somebody did it, everybody did it. When I was about, I don't remember, 13, I was testing for my black belt in Taekwondo. A couple of guys failed on the breaking the cement brick. Soon as one guy broke it, everybody broke it right away. There's something in us that once we see it, there was no spinning hook kicks, now there's 8 or 10. You can learn to do it if you put the effort into it.
Are you going to spend the time doing that? It's something you need to do.
If 20 or 30% of people do, and it becomes in play whenever somebody is mounted, that is a brand new thing that changes the game. When the mount is no longer a certain thing where my job from the mount is just defend being shook off and hurt you, now the job from mount is I might get submitted from here, changes the whole thing. So it's these little things, these little moments. You know, Tony Hawk did some, 1450 or whatever it was of spins, and then everyone could do it. Once these things happen, they are game changers. The meaning of 4 points changes if head kicks are allowed. And the meaning of the mount changes if you can be submitted while mounting someone.
But we also had this conversation this weekend when we were in Montreal about Ben Saunders and him landing that omoplata victory. And it's like everybody looks at that, it's like, holy smokes. But think in all of mixed martial arts, how many times somebody has scored with an omoplata. So should people be spending the time working on an omoplata submission, and is it worth it?
It can be got. Once it can be,
Sure.
once we have seen it, it's real. But people are choosing not to, and that is their choice. But there are many philosophical choices you can make in how to assemble your martial arts game. And most everybody is making the one. I had a long talk with Mike Brown at ATT about this. Fascinating guy, brilliant mind. And he is of the opinion and belief, and I think he's right, that the guy on the bottom has a better advantage. It's easier for him to stand up than it is for you to hold him down, because his feet are directly connected with the ground as he pushes up. If those feet are down, it's harder for you to hold him down than be down. Therefore, our goal should be to stand up there. Well, great, but if everybody's goal is to stand up there, then nobody is training the defense against submissions for a while. That ability atrophies, and guys are in the gym developing omoplatas and go-go platas, and you're going to see them eventually. You will. Once we decide something doesn't work anymore, we've made a grave error because it still works and somebody else is working on it in the lab.
I hope Robin's prognostication comes true and we start getting guys like with straight legs on their back, just inviting people to mount them, and it suddenly becomes like a trap you've fallen into. One last thing, Ben Saunders getting a victory over Court McGee, 29-28 scores across the board. That was the same score I had as well. Saunders winning the first two.
What is wrong with these people in Phoenix, Arizona? These people booing this fight. It was pure, non-stop chaos. Each guy kicking the living shit out of each other with punches and kicks to the body. I can't imagine the type of pain that these guys are in from literally top to bottom. I'm sure Yair Rodriguez feels some pain today, but the amount of punishment that those two guys took over 15 minutes, and it was really awesome to see Court McGee, get in there as Ben Saunders is constantly kicking him from distance. And Court McGee said, you know what? I know a lot of people expect me to get inside. I learned how to fight from distance, and it was just really an incredible fight. And go and watch the post-fight interview with Ben Saunders. I don't know if they should be interviewing these guys right after. However, he seemed to have his wits about him.
Ben is an awesome cat, and he thinks outside the box. And, think of that. There's a box, right? Everybody's in it. Why the fuck would you go in there? Do you know what I mean? This is where all the cool shit's happening. This is where, Guns N' Roses is playing. This is punk rock. Why would you go in there? Everybody goes inside the box. You got to get out there. You got to try different things. Structures and rules and the box are limiting. Guys like Ben Saunders and Tony and all of these guys, they're going outside and trying new things, and new and different works.
That wraps it up for our discussion on UFC Fight Night from this past weekend in Phoenix, Arizona.